The term propaganda is heard a lot today, yet the meaning is not always clear. Propaganda is purposefully biased or misleading information or images that are used in a way to promote a specific political cause or a particular viewpoint. In order to have a greater impact on the viewer, propaganda often tries to elicit an emotional response of either fear, sympathy, or anger. D.W. Griffith's 1915 silent film Birth of a Nation is an excellent example of American propaganda. The propaganda of this scene tries to get viewers to sympathize with the white characters by portraying the black characters in an uncharacteristically poor manner by showing them rigging an election. Today, this scene is almost comical in the way it attempts to skew history in a favorable manner towards Southern ideologies. What makes the scene so ridiculous is the reverse racism showed and the purposeful rewriting of history as to try and have people forget about Southern Jim Crow laws and forceful attempts to stop blacks from voting. In order to fully understand the propaganda shown in this film, we will take a look at D.W. Griffith and the Southern ideals from which he came from. We will trace the relationship that slavery had with the South and their religion, how Reconstruction changed this relationship, and how the results of this relationship affected Griffith's film, Birth of a Nation. Personality traits of a slave being lazy, childlike, irresponsible, affectionate, and happy began to be known as the Sambo to Southern slaveholders. Griffith shows the Sambo stereotype within his film as the Stoneman's family slaves are seen happily dancing for and chatting with their masters. Griffith reflects this view by showing the freed slaves thieving and ransacking a southern town. On the other hand, he depicts southern slaves as carefree and as almost part of their master's family. This idea of the Sambo and the way it is used in Birth of a Nation is just another example of propaganda. In reality, the role of the Sambo helped many slaves avoid confrontations with their masters and helped them eventually get the chance to run away. The slaves' belief in Christianity also helped them find solace in their situation while giving them hope and affirming their ideals of right and wrong. This text is an excerpt from the Exodus story of the Old Testament. Slaves applied the Exodus story to their own experience of slavery, hoping, like the Israelites, that they would be free. As Raboteau writes, the story of Israel's exodus from Egypt helped make it possible for the slaves to project a future radically different from their present.
Let my people go!
The slaves are mine. Their lives are mine. All that they own is mine.
Who are you to make their lives bitter in hard bondage? Man shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men. What a fool.
As can be seen by this clip from the Ten Commandments, the teachings of Moses gave hope to slaves that they would one day be free. Unlike the Southern slave owners who used their religion to oppress, slaves used their religion to spread hope. Where slaves' religious views sought the end of slavery, the Southern slaveholders' view desperately fought for it. During the antebellum period, Christian ideology was rampant throughout the South. As Harlow writes, Southerners in the Old South came to believe that the slavery in their religion and the hierarchy led by white elites that attended it had been ordained by God as a proper mode of social relations. Griffith's positive view on slavery can be seen in the opening of his film, when the Stoneman family takes a walk through their plantation and we see their slaves hard at work on their cotton fields. Although only about 5% of the South actually owned slaves, this ideology that slavery was okay in God's eyes was what many poor Southerners believed as well. As Drew Gilpin Faust said, the most fundamental source of legitimation for the Confederacy was Christianity. White Southerners entered the Civil War convinced that God was on their side.
All my friends were better than God, foolish Mary said. Bound in hell for resting days, they have made me bad. You're gonna need somebody on your bone.
As already shown, there were many cases of propaganda being used to express Southern slaveholder ideologies. However, propaganda was also used by abolitionists. Much of their propaganda showed slightly disturbing imagery to try and elicit an emotional response. However, these images are based on truth and actual events. Although a slave owner might have argued that the past images were biased, when compared to this scene in Birth of a Nation, where a white woman commits suicide rather than let a black soldier finish his marriage proposal, the difference between biased and purposefully misleading information and images is obvious. It is very unlikely that something like this ever happened, where on the other hand, it is a widely documented fact that black mothers were separated from their children in order for them to be sold as slaves. These images produce an emotional response, yet rely less on the manipulation of truth as Griffith's film. By the end of the film, the newly formed Ku Klux Klan rushes in and saves the day by rescuing the helpless townspeople from the attack of the northern black soldiers. By showing this skewed take on history, Griffith is reminding America that the end of the Civil War may have been the end to slavery, but that it helped strengthen Southern racial tendencies. Birth of a Nation is a reminder that with its use of moving pictures, an advantage of telling a narrative story, the medium of film is a powerful tool for propaganda.